Hello, friends, and welcome back to Journey to the Obsidian Spire, part of our Rise of the Veiled Alliance series, a campaign full of deadly politics, mind-bending psionics, vile magic, and pulp adventure in the world of Dark Sun. Our adventurers have set out from the city of Valak across the searing desert sands by way of a great caravan representing each of their merchant houses and where they come from. They seek the mysterious forest nation of Golg, where they hope to entreat with the self-proclaimed goddess Lulali Poi and her oracle, Helena. Just off of the road between Balak and the crossroads village of Altaruk, the caravan has set up tents in the shadow of a great gorge, surrounded by gargantuan black mountains. The light of the two moons of Athos barely reaches the gorge. It spills across the night sky like a distant beacon. It's a hot night, but cooling down, and only a single campfire has been started, used for roasting some of the vegetables and meat brought along for the journey. Most of the camp now is asleep in their tents, in their howdahs, and the beasts, the mechalots, and the other mounted creatures have been tied tightly together by a crisscross of messy ropes weighted to the ground by massive granite slabs. But after a hard day's ride, and surviving an encounter with a mind-controlled giant and a pair of snake-like scions, not everyone in camp is sleeping soundly. Welcome back to Dark Sun, friends. I'm excited to see what happens next. So, I guess the question I have tonight as we begin is, who would have trouble sleeping? Who might be up late into the night at camp right now? All right. So, Horsun, how do you imagine your night's gone, and where do you think you would find yourself as we sort of open the game, open the story for the night?
Horsun is the kind of individual that has trouble sleeping in general. There's always things running through his brain at the most inopportune times. So he would, once things are relatively secure and the people that he might feel responsible for are taken care of, he'll go to a spot in the rear of the caravan, out of sight of everybody and downwind of all of the large beasts, to make sure that no one is inclined to follow, to process things for some alone time. Speak with the winds.
Make me a perception check as you sort of separate yourself from the rest. You do the wise thing when you're out in a caravan and you keep watch.
It's a solid 13, my friend.
So earlier in the night, you descended from the road as it passes down into this gorge, and up above, purple sands from the nearby desert and silt from the sea nearby were washing over the road, and there was more light. You can see the stars a little more clearly. Down here, it's much darker, which in some ways is good for the camp, but it also makes it a little harder to see what else might be out there. With a 13 perception check, Horsun, you can notice a few things. Nothing outside of the camp. You can hear an occasional sound of a beast, but they sound like small creatures out in the darkness. But you can see that at this single campfire that started to dwindle in the center of camp, two figures sitting on almost opposite sides of the fire. You can't tell if they're conversing or not, but you recognize Taruk, the Terry, the Ratkin who is the head of House Jarko and your boss. And you recognize Lord Lucius, who is the head of House Katya, just sitting on stones, eating some food and staring into the fire. You also see, tending to the beasts, two figures. One of them, one of the gladiators who came along to help guard the caravan, covered their face with a hood. And the other, Ntak, who's leading the gladiator guards, the Thry Queen, who is not the second in command of House Jarko, but the closest companion to Taruk, and also a longtime acquaintance of yours. And they're just sort of feeding the beasts, tending watch to them. We'll say they haven't noticed you.
So he's going to make his way towards Untak. And make sure that he's not trying to be stealthy, but he would try to meet his gaze, give him a solid greeting. Old friend.
At the sound of your voice, Ntak, who has all four of his mantis arms like reaching out to feed two different beasts at the same time, lets go of the food in his claws, and he skitters up to his full height and spins around. His head turns first, and then the rest of his body, starting with his abdomen. And he doesn't get closer to you, but he does turn all the way towards you. And he just sort of settles back, and his eyes, his green eyes, sort of catch just a bit of the firelight from the nearby camp. And Ntak speaks, like most Thrycreans, to you, not out loud, but inside your mind. And sometimes it takes the form of pictures, sometimes emotions, sometimes words in your language. So the first thing he says in return is just this image of a warm fire, and you can see in this brief flash in your mind many other Thrycreen sitting around this fire, just sort of like looking between each other and looking to the fire and eating food, but you also see yourself in this image as well. And then Ntak's voice cuts through. Good evening, Horsun.
Is this how you find your peace at night? Or is this an order given to you?
I do work. Beasts need food. It is good to look after the clutch.
Yeah? You find yourself feeling alone in travel?
I am not alone. I go with Clutch.
Right. My apologies. We've got different situations. Don't want to be a bother to you. He starts to physically kind of gets awkward, which is unusual. And he's like, it was nice. It's nice to see you. Have a good night. And walks away towards the campfire with Taruk.
There's another flash, and you recognize this as more communication from Umtak. As you walk away, a flash of you moving away from the campfire, and all of the Thrycreen that were sitting around it, which you recognize, I think, from your previous communications as him, is like his way of showing family, which he calls Clutch. All of the Thrycreen just reach out and touch you on your shoulder, on your back, and then remove their hands, just as a sign of warmth and brotherhood. But he doesn't stop you.
And he shows appreciation for that moment and like stops for a second, takes a deep sigh in appreciation, and then continues to move forward. Seeks his place by the campfire.
As you stroll up to the campfire, there's well, I guess first I want to ask, is there anybody else who would be up, who might be around the campfire, who would be a part of this scene? Cool.
I think, if it's okay with you, Don, I think Dia is nearby purely because she's part of that same group on this caravan. But she's slightly separated, perhaps the other side of the fire, and she seems distracted. Her lantern next to her.
Is Dia facing the fire or facing away from the fire?
I think the fire is catching her on like hard profile, so you can only see half her face as she's kind of looking away from it.
It's very moody. I love it.
She is moody.
Okay. Anyone else?
Is this where my father is?
Yes. Yeah. Lucius is sitting down on a stone slab that's sticking out of the ground, sticking out of the gorge, just sort of watching the fire. He's had a conversation at some point tonight with Taruk, but they're not speaking right now. And Taruk is sort of on the other side of the fire, leaning back. He's drinking from a big clay goblet, just kind of looking up at the stars.
I don't think anyone sees me around anywhere. No.
So Horsun, who you see is Dia and Taruk and Lucius as well, as you're approaching the fire, and then something happens. Roll me let's call it an insight check.
Cool. That's athletics, right?
Yeah. No. Okay.
Slightly more solid 14 on that one.
Cool. Anyone else who might be watching can roll me an insight check as well. Okay. So, Horsun, as you're approaching, are you approaching Taruk directly?
I'm approaching the campfire directly. So there's no individual within the... Yeah.
Not yet, yeah. So as you're approaching the campfire, you're getting pretty close. Taruk kind of leans up on his knee, and he flashes a smile over at Lord Lucius, and he says, "You know, my lord, if you're going to be out here so late, you should be prepared to defend yourself. This gorge has claimed many lives. Here, take this." And he very casually tosses from his belt a long curved blade, a dagger, that's crafted with a bone hilt, and it's made out of, you can't tell if it's flint, but it's some sort of stone, very, very sharp. And he spins it through the air towards Lucius. And you see this toss happen, and Lucius, being distracted, he sort of doesn't see it at first, and he looks up at the last second, he raises his hand, and you can see his mouth moves, his lips move, and then the dagger flies off to the side, away from him, and into the dirt. And Lucius says, "Thank you, but I'm fine, Taruk. Sorry about that." And Taruk just sort of gives a big ratty smile and says, "Of course, my lord. Don't worry, I'll get it." And he stands up and moves over to pick up his blade from the dirt. And you witness that.
Horsun would go to intercept the blade once he realized it's been discarded into the dirt, and kind of like an awkward Midwestern, like, oh, and then he'll do like a weird Michael Scott run, and then bend down, pick up the dagger. Whose was this?
It's mine, but do you want it? You can keep it if you like.
You just giving out daggers?
I have plenty of daggers, Horsun.
All right. And he'll kind of stick it in his girdle. In the dust. Yeah, okay, it's not going to cut anything there. So, these spots taken?
No, please. I was just going to bed. Perhaps you can keep an eye for a little while. I'm sure we're fine, though.
All right, well, have a nice night. And Horsun will move to... Go ahead.
A question I have for you is, did you report to Taruk the encounter with the snake-like humanoids who attacked atop the cliff? Did you keep that to yourself?
He would have reported it.
So Taruk, upon passing, he stops and he leans in closer to your shoulder, and he says, "There's more of them out there. They're always going to be watching. I don't intend to actually sleep tonight, so if something happens, yell.
You know what my whistle sounds like, right?
I've heard it before, yes.
So, keep an eye out for that. Yelling is for amateurs.
He offers you what's left of the liquid in his clay mug.
Sure. I'll take it. Have a nice little subtle sip. The cup kind of looks awkward in his large hand, like a thimble plus. Yeah. Put it to his lips and have a sip.
And Taruk has already started to saunter off back towards the series of tents where House Jarko is staying in this camp, not looking back over his shoulder to you. Do you approach the fire afterwards?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What about Dia? Is Dia doing anything specific? Anything noticeable? What's Dia look like, and what's kind of going through her head right now?
Dia has a hard, fixed stare as she gazes into her lantern. And she doesn't seem to respond to any of the movements around her, any of the conversation. She's just looking at that lantern light. And then suddenly, under her breath, she says, "Well, show me then." And she'd like to reach into that lantern to get some answers about the surrounding area that she has. Things that she wasn't able to resolve during the incident with the giant, based on the rumors she's heard since. So I would like to sacrifice 5 of my hit dice, Don.
Okay.
And gift the lantern that power and reach out into the landscape around me. And I seek 3 things. I seek what hides in the gorge, where the nearest safe water is, and I look very specifically for giants, hoping that they have a strong life force that I can find.
Okay.
Would you like me
Go
to
ahead
pop
and,
the information for me?
Yeah. Go ahead and throw it up and roll 20.
Alright. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
You've been so busy reaching all day when you reach for something useful.
Roll me a charisma saving throw.
Oh boy. 15.
Dia, when you reach your hand into the lantern, into the fire, it moves away from your hand. It's wrapped all around it, but it's not touching it. You just feel the heat from it, and for a second, the color changes from its natural glow to that sort of spectral color, and the fire begins to it's almost like it's trying to escape. It's starting to move against the edge of the lantern, but it's just a couple of flickers, and then it shrinks back down and changes back to its natural yellow. And in the fire, it takes shape, and it gives you answers of a sort about the questions you have. You see in the fire the image of not what lives in the gorge, but what's beneath it. And you can see that it's far, far beneath the gorge. This writhing mass of plants, interconnected roots. But each of the limbs, each of the roots, they have claw-like appendages The bark opens up and you see an eye, and then another eye, and another eye. And as you're looking at this image in the fire, it's sort of like it pans out almost. You see more and more of this creature, and you realize that what not quite slumbering, not quite still, far beneath you is a gargantuan creature. And then the fire changes. You see the question of where is the nearest safe water. And when the fire flickers and another image appears, you see a town, a village that I think Dia's familiar with, or at least would know what it is. You see Altaruk, this sort of large village fortified by 15-foot high stone walls. And it overlooks the very, very end of the Silt Channel. So this is a channel that stretches from west to east and goes out to the Sea of Silt. You're currently traveling alongside of it. And that channel ends at Altaruk. And then there's the rest of the tablelands beyond the village. And what was your final question?
She seeks giants. The giant had said his friends had been taken, and she's trying to work out where. And she's hoping that a giant is a big enough creature that it has a powerful life force to it. Although now she's seen that gigantuan thing beneath the gorge, she's not sure it's going to be as easy as maybe she thought when she was first reaching and seeking answers.
And there is a limit. There's a limit to what this fire can show you. It tries. You see a vision like a bird's eye view stretching out over the Silt Channel, beginning to travel further east as the channel opens up more and more towards the Sea of Silt. And you don't see any of the giants in this image. You're just looking down at this growing channel dotted with little fishing and mining villages. Not fishing, but like little villages with docks, and then other little villages that are built into the mountainside where they mine minerals. And you see those. One of them appears to be wrecked, a ruin. You don't see any life there. And vision passes on in the fire, and then it breaks. The fire dims down to a tiny, tiny flicker.
And I think something in the air seems to brush past her hair, and she becomes a lot more aware, and she turns for the first time towards that larger flame of the campfire, and she'll notice Horsun with Taruk. And then she glances back to the lantern, and she'll carefully close back up the front of it and let the shadows of the lattice work cast out onto the silt around her. Good. You'll be quiet tonight, then.
And the fire does remain small. It doesn't grow again, at least not tonight. Before we go on and check in with everyone else, are there any other objectives for Horsun or Dia that they want to pursue this night before the end of the night?
If during everything Horsun has not yet been introduced to Lord Lucius, he would casually introduce himself. Nice to meet you, Horsun. And kind of, while sitting down, lazily lean over and extend his right hand towards Lord Lucius.
Lord Lucius, where he sits on the rock, it's much less casual than Taruk. He sits straight back. And it's almost this military-like posture, and he has a way of just sort of like looking down over his nose, over his chin. As you come over, you're much larger than he is. This is an older human. He's got like a neat gray beard, a little bit of black still left in it, very, very cared for hair. He's probably taken the time to do his hair, grease it down and comb it before sitting down after traveling. And he's wearing dirty because you're in the desert, but expensive toga that is etched with golden leaves. They look like olive leaves. It's a black toga. And he looks at your hand and he follows it up your arm for a moment, like sort of sizing you up in your full capacity. He looks up to you without moving. He doesn't take your hand, but he says, "It's nice to meet you. I believe you are in charge of security around here."
Yeah, that's right.
And do you have experience leading caravans into the desert?
No.
I see. Well, I might advise you. I do, in fact. It's been some time. When there's a giant
Go
on
on,
the
you were
road,
about.
it may benefit you to deal with it.
And he'll, his hand's still extended, and when he finishes that sentence, he'll take it back, sit down, and say, "Yeah, okay, let me write that down." And then he makes no effort to write anything down.
He just sort of makes a quiet sound. He will say one more thing, and I think there's like a bit of a pause before he says it, and he doesn't look at you while he says it. He looks to the fire, and he says, "I saw you fight a couple of times years ago. You're good."
Thanks. I haven't really seen you do anything, but I'm sure you're good.
I try.
He has survived, Horsun.
And are you in the campfire in the circle? Is this?
She's kind of the other side, and she's finally turned her attention in. And has clearly been listening.
Surviving is important.
And as for dealing with giants, that's why I am here. Horsun, why don't you tell Lucius a story? Sure, that would entertain him.
I'm not really in the mood. I'll cross his arms, kind of sit, collect his legs up closer, so he's more his posture is more like physically defensive, and he crosses his arms, his legs are up, and his elbows are kind of on his knees.
But you had such an exciting day today.
Oh yeah, sure did. Just taking a moment to process it all.
Lord Lucius stands up and stretches just a little bit. He doesn't stretch with his arms, he stretches with his shoulders just slightly. And I have a question for Sam. Sam, did Merula tell their father about the snake-like creatures they encountered up on the mountain?
I told him about it and gave Horsun pretty much all the credit.
Lucius, as he stretches, does look back to you one more time, Horsun. And without smiling, still having that same severe expression plastered across his face, he says, I know what you did. Thank you. If you ever need a debt repaid, you need only ask.
He'll look back. It's a job. No repayment required.
My house pays their friends for their service especially well. Excuse me.
Good to know.
I should rest.
Sleep well?
Without saying goodbye, he just sort of spins on his heels and marches back towards the House Akasha tent. Sam, is Merula doing anything particular tonight in this moment? Where would we find them?
In this exact moment, this very moment, they're going to have to race back to feed their father there and have been sleeping the whole time. Obviously, naturally. They were enjoying the stars nearby the conversation that my Lord Father was having with Taruk, purely out of curiosity, but they're rather waiting for things to calm down and for a few more people to go to sleep. They're waiting for their father to go to sleep. That's what they're doing. They're keeping an eye on him until he goes to sleep. They're not doing anything until then. As they haven't done, to be clear. Not a thing. They're not doing anything very quickly in the direction of the tent. There.
Roll me a stealth check.
Absolutely. Oh, natural 20. Like 31.
That's like a 29 or 31. Wow. Okay, yeah.
A million.
It is the best version of this that has ever happened, where you race back to your sleeping quarters before your father gets there, and he sweeps into the room, shoots down a glance to Merula just briefly, but it's just a brief glance, and then he goes to his own cot that he's set up here in this tent and goes through his own nightly ritual, taking off pieces of jewelry and some of the things that he carries on him, his sword belt, sets it all down aside in a very, very well-folded, organized manner. It's excruciating how long it takes him to get ready for bed as he goes through this process one step at a time. But as soon as he lays down, there's like a long moment, and then the snoring.
I don't think Merula's really slept in close quarters with their father very often, just because of family circumstances. So they don't fully trust the snore for a little while. I mean, they give it some time. Listen to the sounds when there's just that little, when it stops and then restarts, feeling the rhythm of it. And then, once there's been maybe 20 minutes of it, they're going to, with utmost care, exit the sleeping area and tiptoe over to Van.
Van's sort of waiting anxiously in the dark. Doesn't see you approach, but he hears the voice and startles him for a second. So this young, like, scrappy-looking teenage boy just sort of shoots up and looks around. Merula, I've been waiting here for hours.
I had to wait until my father was asleep.
Why did he stay up so late?
Because...
All right.
I don't...
All right.
I don't know him. Come on. I mean... Come on. Let's go. I think I saw a good place to do this earlier when I was... stargazing. Yeah, follow me.
I'll follow your lead. He gets up and he moves quietly too, not as quietly as you, but he moves quietly as well.
I let Corey scout ahead a little bit to ensure that the spot that I found is nice and secure. And once we're both ensconced, I pull out the Knotwork Bracelet that I found in the tower. So, are you going to show me how this works?
I can do my best. You know how we always talked about how maybe magic, it doesn't have to be so destructive. Maybe there's a way that it can protect life, even help create life.
Kailanti said something about that, yes.
Kailantes, he's not just a scion, he's a wizard, too. And he's been around for a long time. He studied this kind of magic.
And I push his shoulders just a little bit like a... You never told me?
And so you're sort of in this like quiet area that's a little bit higher up, and for a second the push almost knocks him, he almost tumbles back, but he catches himself and he just sort of smiles a big smile, and he says, Kailantes told me I shouldn't tell anyone. It was really hard not telling you.
I don't count.
Really hard. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to. I'm glad that I can now. So
good.
That's mine, but it's yours now. I can make another. I know how. Are you able to read it? Do you understand the knotwork?
I think so. I'm just not sure if I'm getting it right. It can really do these things? From that far away? To other wizards?
Here, let me show you. And he reaches out both of his hands for yours, and for the knotwork as well.
I hand them over.
So, this simple knotwork bracelet, it's crafted, multicolored hemp strands, knots tied seemingly at random intervals, and on the inside of the bracelet, you've seen that single rune, an arcane rune that's been scratched. Roughly, it's the same rune in 3 different places. And as he sort of takes your hands and the knotwork, he puts your thumb and a forefinger on 2 of the knots and then tries to help you shift them around the bracelet. Not in a circular order. It jumps from one side to the other and then back. It sort of traces through the center of the knotwork the same rune that's scratched onto the inside. And as he's showing you this, taking his time to make sure that each knot is touched in the right order and that maybe, hopefully, you're recognizing what he's doing. He says, "This is how it works. And if you ever forget, that's what the scratches I made on the inside are, to help you remember." It's
like a cheat code.
Yeah,
I used to scratch
that's
them in the dirt when I was trying to remember something from my tutor. Sorry.
I think there's
Thank you.
more. Oh, of course. I wish I knew more of this type of magic. I'm just beginning myself. It's only been a few months. But
We'll
this
learn it
room,
together.
I'm sure you'll be
What is
better
this?
than me in no time.
Hush! I almost shove him again, and then I learn.
This one,
You're great
it's
too. Yes, show me.
it's meant to protect the land against defilers, the wizards who would draw more life from the land than they should. And if you use this knotwork to cast your spell, then you're protecting the land. And it's sort of counter magic, I guess, if that makes sense. I wouldn't suggest casting this rune and then using any defiling magic yourself. I think it would hurt.
Yeah, I bet. I just look up at Ori real quick. So, how did you come to start learning this anyway? I don't think I ever asked.
My father never told me, but before the praetors took him away, we had a little garden, sort of like that one that I made up on the tower. He cared about it so much. He spent a lot of time there by himself. I wasn't allowed to go in unless he said I could come in. And I know that he was a wizard, but I think he had a sort of knack for, they call it preservation magic. And I don't know, maybe Kylantes sensed that in me. Maybe Kylantes somehow knew my father. He never said, but he sought me out in the maze. I stolen some food. I turned a corner, tried to duck down into the aqueducts beneath the city, and I ran right into him. He was waiting for me. I thought I was done for, and it turns out that he just wanted to help me.
Well, I'm glad he had at least one student who is good.
I'm sure once we get back from all of this, you'd be happy to teach you too if you wanted. I could use a partner for studying.
Always. I mean, I would love to. We'll bring back
Good.
lots of magic to show him too. He'll have to take us both on.
Sounds like a deal.
We can do it together. All right. It's a deal.
Ben sort of sits back and he just looks up to the stars and he says, as he's sort of smiling, a little bit of a goofy smile on his face, "I don't want to sleep. I think I'm just going to stay here for a while."
All right. My father notices I'm missing him. I'm not tired either. I might stay up a while.
He smiles a little bit bigger.
Ultimately, Merula will absolutely fall asleep.
Right.
There.
No, you need the long rest, right? He doesn't have to worry about long rests. Yeah. He sort of looks over to you and smiles, maybe catching a little bit of a yawn, and says, I'll stay here as long as you do. It's nice tonight.
Yes, it is.
I think occasionally, like, there's that like glance back and forth when the other person's staring up. That's when the other person glances, at least for Van. And as time passes, anything else that Merula wants to talk about or to do?
There are a million things they want to talk about and a million things they want to do, and they'll definitely do it. It's just they're going to rest their eyes first. Just for a moment. Because they aren't sleepy. Just like they weren't sleepy earlier.
Roll me a Constitution saving throw.
Oh, good dice. You're good dice. That's a 3, I think. Yes, that's a 3.
Very,
Good
very
job.
sleepy.
Well done.
we will resolve this in a little bit. I want to go now to Christina and check in on Lady Akasha. How would we find late at night if we were to find her? Where would she be? What would she be doing?
If you were on the outside looking in, it appears as if I am sleeping peacefully. Quite slight snore, but if I were awake, I would tell you I don't snore, and you probably dream that whole thing. Because why would I snore? I'm awake. But inside of my head is the most intense dream, and we're outside standing. Caravan is gone. Everything is gone. And the sky starts to line with blue. Blue overcomes it. I look into the distance and things are disappearing, like turning to dust. Everything is turning to dust. And there's has to be 80-foot Caesar stomping towards me. It is, with every footstep that Caesar drops, everything is disappearing. Everything is wiping out. And he's getting closer to me, and closer to me, and closer to me. He says, "You'll never be Caesar." And at that moment that his foot comes down, everything turns to dust, and including myself, and I exhale as I disappear into the dust, and then I wake up.
What do you do when you wake up? What's waking up in that moment? Is it like an easy wake up, or is it like you're startled out of a nightmare? How does Akasha react?
I think because I'm waking up as the foot is coming down and turning to dust, I just wake up in shock.
You can see the early light of day breaking through the cracks in your tent that you're sharing with Lord Atlas, your grandfather. You've slept through the night and it's early morning. You can hear sounds of activity from the camp outside. And Lord Atlas himself is up. He's gathered his things. He's getting ready, and he's brewed himself with a little pot of tea. And it's very, very pungent. You know, this is a common tea that he drinks that most other individuals do not enjoy. He likes it really strong, and you can smell it from many feet away. And with your startle, his hand shakes a little bit, and he almost drops this clay pot. And he sets it down with both hands, and he looks over his shoulder to you, and he says, are you all right, my dear?
I'm like still kind of disoriented. I climb onto the floor and sit next to him, lean my head on his shoulder, and just absently grab his tea. That is terrible, and you should feel bad.
Why? I always drink that tea. Are you feeling okay?
No. I just have to. I think I've had enough of giants for a little while.
You know, I used to always get this nightmare where, and he started to like sit down next to you so that he can kind of relax and you can lean on him a little bit more easily, comfortably. And he settles back a bit. Every single time, the same thing. I would turn into a little tiny lizard, and I would skitter around all through the city, and no one would look at me. I could go wherever I wanted, but no one could hear me either, and so it was fun at first. It felt very exciting to be able to see things that no one else could see, but very lonely, always very lonely. I had that dream for several years. Dreams try to tell you something true, I think.
If that's the case, I'm going to get stumped by 100-foot tall Caesar.
I hope not. But I think perhaps they work more metaphorically.
So you mean he wouldn't really squash me?
You can see a conflicted look on Lord Atlas's face as he struggles to answer that for a second. Akasha, Caesar is very dangerous. I know that the city hurts now that he's gone, but for as long as I lived in Valak, I lived with a fear of Caesar every day. The entire city lived that way, and long before I was born, long before our people came to the city. In a way, Caesar has squashed many people.
But not under his actual foot.
Well, not that I've seen, I hope not. But in many other ways.
So maybe, if we're speaking metaphorically, maybe you're the turtle trying to escape from Caesar, who's a giant in your real life, but is not a giant who's 100-foot tall giant that's going to squash you underneath his foot.
Well, perhaps, yes. I guess what I mean is, I think there's something to learn from dreams, but they can't hurt us. They can only help us.
There was a moment when the dream ended, and I was preparing to, I didn't know if I was going to run left or right or what to do, and I just resigned to let myself be crushed under the foot of Caesar. And I knew that it would be the end, but I was calm. I was okay. I was at peace with being done with this. There was just a weird calm in it. Does that make sense?
He leans his head now against your head and sort of casts his eyes, squinting to the break in the tent flap where the light's spilling through. And he says, I understand being tired. Oh, I understand it. But it's when we give into that we are stepped on. I'm old, but I'm strong. And you, yeah, you're stronger than I ever was.
If it's any consolation, I don't think you're a small turtle.
I kind of liked it. It was nice. Not having everyone look at you.
Yes,
Perhaps I could brew you a different tea, and we could keep going.
like that.
He smiles at you, and he knocks his head against the side of your head real lightly, and slowly stands up and begins to brew some tea. Is there any other objective Akasha wants to pursue before they set off, other than just having breakfast and tea?
I would like to look for Dia.
Absolutely.
She was with me at the giant.
Mm-hmm. So, Charlie, the next morning as the camp is being taken down, House Jarko's already packed up and ready to go, and the beasts are being loaded. Everybody's preparing to continue to move on. Where would we find Dia in the morning?
I think this morning she has been up watching the change in the light as it shifts from night to day. She did sleep, but she always makes sure to be up early. And she has separated herself a little from the House Jarko caravan and is kind of wandering the area, taking in the space around her, her kind of permanent anti-silt shield in the form of that scarf. And I think she plays with the tassels at the end of it, her fingers running over the embroidery that she's been working on. She can feel the slight imperfections in the knots and the shapes. And so she would be distracted, I think, as Akasha seeks her out. But she's there, wandering not too far from House Jarko's point in the caravan.
Yeah. So you see Dia near the House Jarko caravan, which is almost ready to go, just sort of looking down at this embroidery that she's working on.
Hello.
Good morning.
I guess you're not going to say Hail Caesar. So it's, you speak giant?
Amongst other languages, yes. And you speak well.
Thank you. I try to be a great leader.
Was very creative and daring.
So you should ride with me.
I should.
Yes.
Be very interested to know your reasons for why I should, but I do agree.
You speak giant. You are good in a tense situation. You have fantastic hair. And I think it would be great if you became my friend.
Let us ride together to Altaruk then and see if we could make such a thing occur. As for my hair, I can recommend where you can buy the oils I use.
I always say it's best to have lots and lots of girlfriends, and then you can always have someone to have your back, just like you would hope that they would have your back and keep your secrets.
Secrets. Now you have my attention. And she'll reach into her various swaddlings of fabric and pull out the small bottle of hair oil. And she'll hold it out on her palm. It's a really small bottle of glass, I think a dark green glass. And inside you can see the glisten of tiny gold particles. And she'll hold it out on her palm. Here's my secret.
Let's spend some time together and get to know one another. And I might take you up on that.
Fair exchange. Lead the way. Is there anyone else in this caravan that you would like to make friends with, Akasha?
Well, I have one. Have you met Lux Merula? How's Akasha?
Not. I've seen them at a distance, but only briefly.
They're an interesting person to have on your team. If I were building a team or a council of some sort.
They remind me of an apparition, formed up of silt and then blown away by the wind. If we can catch them, then perhaps we can see about an introduction. I would be very interested to know more of them.
I've never caught sand in the desert. It just seems like it's a bit of a... Yes, as you say, we should. And I also have been traveling slightly with Evo Strand. You are familiar?
The older gentleman you were with yesterday.
Extremely old.
Exceptional.
And my grandfather. I'm sure you would love to meet someone of his stature.
I am sure I would. I am just an artist, you understand. Not particularly important unless you care for art.
Akasha's trying to match the tone of her voice to sound professional and very I am a fan of art. I enjoy art and would enjoy having an artist on my
Team?
friend count
Perhaps
team.
something you should consult with your grandfather about. I'm sure he has wonderful words for such an accord between individuals. And I could suggest a sculpture if you wish to recreate walking on the palm of a giant. Would make a fine statue. For one so bold.
I'm not sure exactly what you mean.
Oh, a sculpture is a carving of rock.
Roll me.
You see, we would get a big boulder.
Roll me an insight check, Charlie.
Okay. 16.
Yeah, that's pretty good. As the conversation continues, there's a moment, I think it happens after you start responding, where you realize that Akasha doesn't seem to remember what you're referring to.
So they take the boulder, and do you not recall the incident yesterday?
To be quite honest, I don't. I recall attempting diplomacy, and after that, nothing. I'm not sure what you mean by the home of a giant.
It's both a literal and metaphorical description for what you did. Never mind. We shall talk more about it while we journey to Altaruk. Do you often forget things?
It is a pretty constant thing.
In times of
Nothing really
stress?
important.
Oh, of course.
It is when I'm having moments of stress. But I mean, I'm not under any stress right now. Well, I did witness Caesar assassinated. We were attacked. I lost my friends, made some new friends. I was pretty sure that I was going to lose my grandfather, in which case I would have probably lost my mind because he's the only remaining thing that keeps me together. But I don't really have any stress.
Of course. Sounds very traumatic. The felling of
I don't like to dwell.
the loss, potential loss of your own. Terrible things. Have you ever tried to express those feelings in some way other than words?
No, not really.
Have you ever created anything, Akasha? With your hands? Taken something that is one thing and made it into another because you willed it to be? Painting, perhaps?
Or I've been known to dabble. I don't. Well, magic is not really allowed, as you know, so I don't participate in it.
No, of course not magic. I have a few supplies with me. Perhaps we can work through your experiences together. See if you can find a way to express them. Bring them back so you remember them, and use them to be something more. Because that's what you want, isn't it, Akasha?
Akasha is extremely uncomfortable because she feels like she's being read for filth by Dia. And it's not a comfortable feeling. I would love to create something. Maybe you can bring some supplies with you to my...
Sorry, Akasha, I get rather carried away. Artists. I'll bring some paints. Perhaps we could do little birds. I've seen one flapping around.
There's a cry out from the end of the camp, close to where House Sereno is now gathered up all their tents. They've packed up onto their mechalots, their large beasts, and the guards, the elvish runners who run alongside the caravan, are set into place. They get into like a runner position where they're ready to, like, at a moment's notice, they're ready to start running. So it looks like a dozen sprinters surrounding either side of this gigantic turtle. And I wanna pop over to Evo real quick. What do you think the rest of his night was like, and how's he spending his morning?
Ebo had a wonderful night of just sleeping in. Just an older gentleman trying to get his sleep where he can, and last night was really exciting. He does wake up early to perhaps after Akasha has went to go find and talk to Dia. I think Ebo would maybe go to Lord Atlas with some breakfast that he has made, because that's the only person that Ebo truly knows, that's the only person Ebo truly knows on this caravan. So Ebo would probably present Lord Atlas a local breakfast dish that they have in Villery.
And do you think this is like a vegetable forward kind of breakfast, or how do you
yes. So this breakfast is made with young bamboo shoots, and they're tender. And if there's an egg available on this caravan, he'd probably crack it and use some of that and present it over to Lord Atlas.
Okay. I imagine that, like, traveling, eggs break so easily on the back of mechalots, but maybe every single morning there's a few of the folks from Villery, your village, go out and they find these little lizard nests wherever they can. They always at least bring back a couple dozen eggs because they know how well it goes along with the rest of their cuisine. And Lord Atlas, I imagine as you find him in his tent after Akasha's left, he's sort of got a couple of elves there helping him pack up. He's totally already finished breakfast. And he's getting ready to go, and then you walk in with that breakfast, and he smells it, and you can hear just a,
yes.
hello?
Hello. Yes. Last night was quite exciting. I brought you a special meal from Villery. Bamboo shoots and egg. It is quite filling and very filling and delicious meal to start the day off. If I can share a little with you, Lord Atlas.
But yes, of course. And he doesn't mention that he's already eaten, but he does turn around and there's a clay pot that's still set out. It's not been packed yet, of his specialty. And he pours 2 cups, these small clay cups of it. And He says, if you'll share my tea, I'll be grateful to share your food.
Oh, of course, it smells wonderful, quite strong, just how I enjoy it.
It is very strong. Most people say too strong, but I disagree. Especially as I get older, I can't taste anything that doesn't brew for at least an hour. He offers you the cup, and he kind of waves for you to follow him outside so you can step outside of the tent while they're packing up inside.
Oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord Atlas. You're too kind.
He's walking along with the help of a stick, and as you step out, the sun doesn't quite reach all the way down into the gorge, not yet, but it's bright overhead, and it brings with it these waves of heat that hang up above the shadows of the gorge. And the camp is aflurry with motion as all of the houses and villary are preparing their beasts. The guards are getting set into place, and everybody's getting ready to move off. You would guess, based on traveling with caravans before, probably in the next, 5 to 10 minutes. So there's not a ton of mealtime, but he still kind of like walks off to the side of the tent to an area where he's not going to get trucked over, run over by anybody moving quickly past. He sits down on a rock and pats down on the ground next to him, and he says, please, if you don't mind having a seat, I would love to taste this. It sounds delicious.
Oh, yes, glad to take a seat with you. Akasha, your granddaughter, she is quite strong-willed from the interaction we had with the big fellow last night.
Well, I know. I'm constantly surprised by her. In a good way, of course. And he's between eating, he's starting to eat and enjoy some of the food and like taking big bites too. It's kind of like some of the egg is probably running down his face and he doesn't realize it's falling down his chin.
My lord, you have a little over here. Yeah.
Here, and he wipes the wrong side of his face.
Yes.
He
just want to
cleans off the egg from his face.
Presentable.
Thank you. Yes, you cannot tell you how many times I've been told that I don't look presentable enough. And people, they care about the wrong things.
Yes, quite silly. After a while, you quite know what is important. After the years.
Yes. Well, you were saying about my granddaughter being strong.
Oh, yes, she was able to, she was able to speak to the big fellow with, authority that seemed to, make them equals at the moment, and, it was astonishing to see. She was unsure for a second, but, she collected herself and, was marvelous at, confronting and, rationalizing with our big friend last night.
There's a proud twinkle in his eyes and a smile, and he raps the base of his gnarled staff against a rock a couple of times, and he says, I love hearing that, I do. You know, there are nobles who, when my granddaughter says that she wishes to become praetor, or perhaps more one day, they don't give her the due she deserves. Who among them, I ask you, would step into a giant's hand and scare it? I've heard tale. The giant was terrified of her. That's the sort of leadership we deserve.
Yes, She quite reminds me of my own daughter that I have. Strong, very savvy when it comes to politics of the kind. I am looking forward to see her progress and gain confidence and truly start to lead. I do believe that she may be up to some wonderful things in the future.
Knowing you, Ebo, I believe that's true. I think you know, we do our best to show them what we've learned through our mistakes and our lucky chances. We give them a little bit of ourselves, and whether or not they know it, there's a part of us with them. And as they become their own person, make their own mistakes, their own choices, grow and become strong, there's nothing like it in the entire world, watching them grow. I wish it didn't have to be so fast, but it is amazing.
Yes, you truly wish you have more time and time can slow down. I'm glad to have a friend on this journey, on this caravan, and thank you so much for the wonderful tea.
And thank you, Ebo, for this food. I have not had anything quite like it before. It's wonderful. I hope
Yes.
Perhaps you'll cook for me again. I would love to try more of your village's food. It's a treat.
I would love to. I'll try and think of some more interesting recipes, as long as you have that marvelous tea.
And I'm going to dust my my robes off as I get up, and offer my hand to help Lord Atlas up.
Lord, if I can.
And with a little bit of a shaking hand, he'll reach up and he plants the staff on the opposite side of him to help leverage him up as you pull him up. And you can hear like a couple of cracks in his back as he gets up and hunches over a little bit. Well, it's going to be a long day, I suppose. There's no better time to start than now.
Yes, let's get to it. We have a long way, and I'm quite looking forward to it.
I think he is happy to walk side by side with you as the two of you rejoin the rest of the caravan, which is almost ready to go now, joining the House Sereno Haldor, with the elves, the runners, taking their points to help you up into it so you can sit there. But before we set off, there is one more thing that I think that we need to figure out. Merula.
Yeah? Mm-hmm.
You and Van wake up in the morning when a ray of light from above finally trickles down this gorge and shines on your face. And as it does, it's bright light, it's heat, it's sudden, and Van starts up, jerking his head around back and forth. And you realize the two of you have both passed out here on this little rocky ledge and slept through the night. And below you, the dust is rising from the bottom of the road, from the gorge, and sort of filling the space as the mechalots are up, the beasts are mounted by their riders, and everyone's almost ready to go.
We're in such trouble. I have to go. Like, practically a Merula-shaped dust cloud.
And
Like a coffin.
you hear You hear his voice. It's quiet and scratchy because he just woke up, but you can't hear what he says. There's a moment where he's like looking down over the edge as you dart down and begin to descend and make your way towards the caravan, and he's sort of waving, and then he grabs up something, some of his belongings that are laid out beside him, and he begins to climb down too, not as fast as you, but relatively quickly. But you leave Van behind. You, like a dust cloud, move towards the caravan, and as you're approaching, you can see in long sweeping arcs Lord Lucius, straight backed, his arms folded behind his back, and a new toga, this one white, still etched with gold leaves, is moving around back and forth, and he'll stop at a point and he'll stare out. And you can tell, like, his face is tight. You're not sure as you approach if he's angry or worried or both or what, but he is certainly more expressive than normal.
This is how I die. This is the end of things. I'm doomed. Doom is here. Was it Caesar? Was it monsters? Was it snake assassins? No, it was my father, because I step out and he's going to... Good morning. Good morning, Father.
He stops, and he slowly turns, and he doesn't look at you, Merula. He's looking above you. He's looking past you. And there's a little bit of a curl of his lips. It's not a smile. It's something else. And then he says, "Where were you, Merula?"
It was our first night. I wanted to sleep under the stars.
Even after those things, knowing they're out there, you still went off on your own with no one to watch you?
Yes.
Okay, roll me a deception check.
Yeah. Don't fail me, please. I need this. Nat 20!
Yes.
I'm not even slightly joking. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh no. He doesn't skip a beat. He buys it. He doesn't skip a beat. He says, "Only more and more I've been thinking that you have immensely good judgment. I have been impressed." And then he looks down at you, not looking past you anymore. "I do not feel impressed today, Carol. What you did was dangerous. Any number of things could have taken you in the night. And then, what would there be of our house?"
You're right, Father. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. I'm sorry.
He's quiet for a long time. Then you hear the same calls go out that everyone else was hearing as the caravans get ready to leave. And he takes in a deep breath, and he just kind of looks over his shoulder, back at the caravan, then back to you, and he says, "We all make mistakes. Learning from our mistakes. Not all of us do that.
I'll learn. I promise. And under the breath, it's up to you whether or not he hears. They just say, please don't be mad at me.
Roll me an insight check.
Middling, that's a 9.
He lingers for another moment. You're not sure if he heard you or not. But he sort of sweeps his toga behind him and begins to turn around on his heels like he does. And he simply says, without looking back, "It's time to go."
And Merula doesn't say anything else. Their face is burning. There's that terrible feeling in the pit of their stomach when someone has just eviscerated you with soft, understanding tones. And they trudge as they just set everything up and are silent. If they see Van, they don't make eye contact. They don't speak to him. They're just businesslike, trying to deal with wanting to crawl into the deepest hole that has ever been holed.
And Van is awkwardly in the same howdah as you during this leg of the journey, working as a servant for House Akasha. But let's bring everyone together now as the caravan sets off. And the light above still has not reached the bottom of the gorge, but you're all beginning to move together, just like before, along this road. And we're going to do a thing now with everyone where we do a little bit of a travel montage that covers the next couple of days. It doesn't encompass everything that you do on this journey, but it's just a few moments, the key moments you want to share about your characters. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and we'll narrate some things out, and then we'll continue on our journey with everyone together. So, with Merula, during the next 2 days of journey, which it's hotter than the day before, 140 degrees on the first day and 130 on the second Fahrenheit. The water resources are not gone. You're well prepared, but they're dwindling, and there's a shift in attitude. There's a shift in exhaustion amongst many, even of the hardier people. What is one moment that you would like to create, a memory that Merula might hold on to from these couple of days? Something important.
Probably one of the evenings when they grabbed the obsidian blade that they had taken from one of the snake assassins, and they had wrapped up in oilcloth in the haldor, and went to Horsun to ask for training.
And so they approach Horsun, you said?
Yes.
So Horsun, where would you be during these 2 days of travel that they might find you? Would you be in a specific part of the caravan, or like at night?
During the day, he'd be in the house Jarko Howdah, but at night he would find some time to move away and make some time for he himself to train. If it's only shadow boxing, if it's stretching, if it's some sort of conditioning, just to make sure that he's still on top of whatever game he's got left.
So that's where you find him training alone.
Horsun looks around. Where'd that come? Oh, hey. Sneak. How are you? How you been?
Hello. Am I disturbing anything?
No, just doing some training. Now, if you don't use it, you lose it, right?
Thank you again for the snakes back there.
Oh, thank you. I'd had no idea. You had the instinct. It's you to be getting the praise.
I would have been dead and in pieces without you.
I'm not so sure. I've seen quite a lot about what you can do.
Then you honor me, Sir Horsun. You're a professional fighter. I haven't really studied since my brother taught me, and that was years ago now, I suppose, and I was wondering if you would be willing to train with me.
You see his eyes get big, and then he has like a relaxed stance, and he immediately gets like a very energetic stance. He's like, "Oh, fuck yeah!"
Really?
Shit, yeah. So, tell me about you've had training before. What was that like? And you can see he's totally invested into knowing your training, what kind of skills you've developed, what your strengths are, what you think your weaknesses are, and he's trying to. You see his brain working, trying to figure stuff out as he's asking you these questions.
And having never really experienced that kind of engagement and enthusiasm, Merula likewise completely defilters, and Horsun gets a whole story about the half-brother who was the golden child of the family and whom they never got to see except for these blessed times when they got to train, and it was swordsmanship, and he gave them this dagger, the one that's very familiar from the earlier fight, and that they learned how to hide and to get every advantage because they were so small, but they'd never really fought in a proper stand and deliver kind of manner, or withstood any hits the way that we saw Horsun do, and clearly admire just the vivacity and enduring capabilities of Horsun. Very much a fan kid.
Horsun, he's got his arms crossed and nods his head. Well, first, the most intense training comes from here. So, let's see, where do we start? Now, seeing what I've seen, hearing what I've heard, most likely you're not going to be the one taking the brunt of the hits. Let me tell you that what you do is valuable. I cannot sneak around. I cannot jump. So, as we get into this, trust that I'm trying to maximize your strengths and let go of the weaknesses.
Maximize strengths, let go of weaknesses. All right.
And then he begins to run them through basic movement to try to pick up any sort of idea for how they move regularly. If there's negative compensations they've developed over time from misuse of their body.
I have a couple of questions, and then I want to do some dice rolls, and we'll see. This is sort of like downtime activity, right? So there's stuff that can be gained here that you can use moving forward. So
Merula would love to get some gains, yes.
right? Everyone would. Bill, what song, or power ballad plays as we watch Horsun and Merula train, maybe from like a bird's eye view and like panning all around?
I think we're gonna start low, start light, and just jump into Through Fire and the Flames by Dragon Force. Because it really matches the energy.
Okay. So that guitar solo happens as the two of you are training in this evening with a little bit of light overhead, and it's cooled down a good deal. And Bill, I want you to roll me a performance.
Mm-hmm.
Performance roll. And
got it.
Now, is that athletics?
It was a 23, though, which is pretty
23. Good. Okay. And Merula, what is it that Merula is trying to hold on to the most of these lessons? Because he's teaching them a variety of different things, or going through a variety of different things. What do you think is most important that they're trying to hold on to?
Merula, as they fight and they hide, partly their style is maximizing their advantages, minimizing their weaknesses. As Horsun says, they cannot take a hit. They are a small person. But some of that style is motivated by fear. They don't just hide because it's advantageous. They hide because they're afraid. Like the kind of kid where if you throw a ball at them, they'll recoil. And I think they're trying to learn from Horsun the centeredness to approach a fight from a place of mental strength. Whether they are taking hits or whether they are dodging, that it not be from a place of avoidance.
So go ahead, if you don't already have it marked, go ahead and mark inspiration, both of you, for this. And Merula, in addition, you can mark this down wherever you'd like. I'm going to give you a reroll on a failed Constitution or Wisdom saving throw. You can recall this lesson. And if you continue to train, then you might get we might work in some like more long-term things. But at least with this lesson, you in a moment where you need to not flinch, you can recall this lesson and possibly work through it. Cool.
Wonderful.
While we're here, Bill, what's a moment do you think that during this 2 days of travel, it could be while you're camped, it could be on the road, what's a moment that you would like to create? This could be a personal moment for Horsun. This could be a conversation or a scene like you just had with Merula. This could be the caravan encountering something dangerous along the way and how Horsun deals with it, whatever you want.
Horsun would primarily keep to himself as he kind of feels jilted from his interaction with Lord Lucius, and he's going to project the assumption of that to everyone that seems like Lord Lucius. So that if he vibes like Lord Lucius, then he's going to just stay away and save his energy. But from this moment in training, if this were happening early on or later on in a couple of days, before that moment, he would have been seen looking out, kind of progressing to a slow, subtle despondency. But afterwards, he would kind of hover more towards the caravan, not necessarily seeking out, but hoping to run into Merula and spur more conversation about opinions of how training's going, and I think what he would also do is that would kind of fuel him to approach Dia in the same manner.
Okay. So let's bring in Charlie then. Dia. Let's say, do you think he would do this at night?
Once
Or during
everyone
the
starts
day?
to settle down, where no one's looking at him.
Okay. So we'll say like like twilight, not super late at night. Of the third night of travel now is probably when this conversation happens. Where would we find Dia? Where would Horsun be able to locate Dia?
I think Dia is with Taruk, and she supplied him with some small amount of kind of smoking drug to mellow him out so he's having a chill night. And she's implying that she's imbibing, but she's definitely not. Horsun would know just looking at her. She's watching everything like a cat tonight, very aware. But she's making sure that Taruk is having a great time.
And for what it's worth, Taruk is having a great time, especially with the first night being the most dangerous night, at least for him personally. Like he's started to settle down. They're getting closer to Altaruk. He's drinking through more and more of their party reserves each night progressively. And the roll me an insight check, Dia.
Natural 1 for a total of 7, Don.
He is the Tarukiest. He is the party Terry, ex-champion gladiator, loves being out on the road, and his gladiators love him as much as he loves himself. And Horsun, you find Dia off on her own. Is Dia doing anything in particular? Is there like an activity that she's partaking in?
I think this is a strange thing. Every time Horsun has come across Dia, especially on this caravan, she has been doing something. She's been tinkering with the lantern, or she's been playing with her scarf, or painting, or talking to someone. But I think she's actively not doing anything except existing and, keeping an eye on the atmosphere. The lack of fidgeting is apparent.
And he would kind of gently enter the space, as gently as this thick-ass dude can. So he'd try to get your attention with like a weird head nod, as he's trying to be cool.
There's a brief frown, her brows knit, and then she realizes what this exaggerated nod is, I think. And she'll make an excuse that she'll be back and move away to Horsun. You could have whistled.
How would you? I could have, but that would have drawn a lot of attention, which, it's been a while since, well, how do you feel about training?
What kind of training did you have in mind?
Oh, we used to do. I got the bug again, so if you're still interested, I'm still offering to train.
Strangely, Horsun, you have a knack for crossing my path when I need you. I need to be stronger, Horsun. I would very much like to train. And I have
If
some
you can,
frustrations to work out before we reach the village. Training, of course.
Right, yeah. So if you can find an excuse to get out of this, I'll be waiting towards the back of the caravan.
Taruk, I'm gonna go and play with Horsun. I'll see you later.
Okay. Okay. Well, just gonna go then. And he's gonna.
Would you like it if I snuck after you 10 feet behind?
I don't know. I don't like people knowing what I'm doing.
Over
As you
where
wish.
the gladiators, over where the gladiators are carousing, you see like Taruk kind of stumble away and look back over his shoulder and peer down his long nose so that he can kind of squint towards Dia and you, Horson. And he just kind of gives you a big furry thumbs up and goes back to hanging out with the other gladiators.
And then Orson would then walk his way into the back of the camp where he would hope Merula would be waiting to train. But if they're not, that's fine.
Let's find out. Would Merila be waiting to train at the back of the camp on the third night?
Yes, they have been studiously avoiding key members of their caravan, and I think pouring their energies into training.
Into training. And we'll say too, just for just a little bit of flavor and context, that after a full day and a full night with another night's sleep, Lucius's attitude, that slight change in his demeanor, that slight chilliness, even more so than normal, fades away to the normal level. He doesn't speak of it again. And Van will say there's a couple of times where he looks dejected as they kind of like miss each other, or Merila may not be like interacting as much as before if they're avoiding him. But I want to say that like there's a moment maybe on this third evening where as he's passing by taking care of his servant duties for the house, he just sort of like leans close when he thinks nobody's listening, and he whispers, "Don't worry. I get it. I'll talk soon."
Sure. Yeah. Soon.
Slinks away. And then a short time later, Horson and Dia approach the spot where you're supposed to train.
And he gets excited that they're both there. All right, I've been thinking a lot, nonstop, about this for however many hours it was since the last we met. So I got something new today. Reading your opponent. And then he references Dia.
I'm sorry.
How does Dia...
I don't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't think we've been properly introduced. I'm Merula.
It is the pleasure to meet you, Merula. I've heard much about you.
Oh.
Mostly good.
Oh.
Reading your opponent, that was the lesson, was it not, Horsun?
Yes, it was.
My name is Diadella, Merula.
Well, pleasure to meet you.
I'm an artist, an old friend of Horsun's. Too old, but we won't discuss that now.
All right.
Just go gentle.
Oh, I'm not a proper fighter, not like Horsun. I'm sure you'll have nothing to worry about from me.
Oh dear, Horsun, you're not very far along, are you?
Guess we'll see. And he kind of steps back, crosses his arms, and looks at the both of them.
All right. I have a couple of questions. This one for Sam and for Charlie. Who makes the first move? Like, who initiates the action here? And what does it look like?
I think Dia would approach this by trying to outweigh Merula. She would try and force them to move and just leave it as awkward as she can, because she's noticed that Merula seems a tiny bit uncomfortable with social interaction so far. And she's like, if I could make them move, then I just gotta defend it. So she's gonna just wait and leave this pause as long as she can.
And it's funny you should say, because Merula's likewise waiting for a reaction, and where they seem stunningly awkward in social situations, now that this is a fight, they have that very stiff posture of someone who's anxious and a little tight. But just a little bit out of sight, they have their dagger in their hand and they are completely relaxed in that arm.
And Billy, what song begins to play?
I'm gonna bring it back with, this will be instead of ripping into the guitar solo, it'll be the intro portion of Fire and the Flames, where it's just like the ding 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 ding, where it's just like super tense movement, and then the camera like zooms in and the background, and it just locks in on them, and then there's the anticipation.
So the silt here off of the sea that you've become close to, you've gotten closer to the sea with the road this eve, is blowing across the way where the three of you are positioned. And up above, whether anyone notices, Ntak, the Thry-Kreen, the head guard of House Jarko, is watching with a spear planted in the ground, just kind of clacking his mandibles, interested in what's happening below. And somewhere with House Sereno, I think Lord Atlas like peeks out for a moment and sees the three of you and squinting. He's not sure what it is. So there's not many people watching you, but there's like a couple of people who have noticed as the two of you begin to spar. And I don't want to do a full combat.
I have a
but I want
proposition for how it would begin, Don. I think Dia attempts to wait it out, and maybe begins to suspect Merula is more prepared than she thought, and she'll step just slightly to the side as if to begin the circling. And she goes, "No, really, nobility first. I insist." And then she'll take a breath and she'll punch Merula.
You just like try to strike out with your fist?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Roll me. I'm going to give you 4 total rolls, and we'll just kind of narrate loosely how this goes as another montage. Give me an attack for Dia, and give me. Let me know how Merula reacts to the attempt of the punch, and then I'll have you do a roll as well.
20. Dirty.
Dirty 20.
Merula's going to ride the punch to rob it of the momentum. To sort of dodge in a way, but knowing that at a certain distance you can't avoid the hit, but it doesn't have to hurt.
So imagine this in slow motion. Give me a dexterity saving throw. We close in on
That's
Merula.
22.
So it's not that you dodge the punch entirely, but you do use the momentum to pull away so that its impact is lessened and you're able to control your body a little bit more. The speed and the reflex of doing so is something that Dia would immediately probably recognize. And let's give it over to Merula. What's Merula's next move here?
So Merula rides the punch back, steps back with that same side leg, turns around to get to Dia's back. Now that Dia's committed to a hit and has initiated momentum, Merula basically goes around for backstab, in effect.
The backstab.
I think probably using the hilt of the blade because it's just for a touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Give me an attack roll.
Check. I think I know this modifier. No.
How no? Just out of curiosity.
All the no. The
All the
knowest
no.
that it can be. So I think as they do that, and as they're putting into the spin, a little bit of the silt just starts to slide. And so their feet fall out from under them a little bit. And they're out of position into it and probably vulnerable to another hit.
All right. Dia, you catch them in this moment, and you have one more thing you can do here.
So as Dia senses the movement, as Merula is shifting around her, she's going to turn and she's going to strike out with a leg to kick Merula, aiming for a shoulder, body, just to knock Merula all the way back. Just using that. You're turning, I can turn too, and turn around with the leg.
Go ahead and make me one more attack roll.
15.
What's Merula's AC armor class?
15.
So it's a connect, but it's not a hard connect with this foot. But I think that, like, out of position, it catches you in the shoulder, Merula. And this is just the start of your training. How long does this go on? How long would Merula be willing to, like, go toe to toe with Dia here?
Until they can't. Probably a little bit too long, because it's a pride thing, easily.
And what about Dia?
I think Dia, having landed 2 hits, would make sure Merula got back up, would give Merula like another hit, but then I think Dia would begin pulling back, pretending to slip in the silt a little bit. Kind of feign a little bit more distress than she's probably in, because she wants to really see what Merula can do when Merula's really trying, and she doesn't want Merula to kind of crap out in dejection too early.
So as this continues going on, Merula, make me an insight check, and we'll kind of end it this bit here.
Do you want a deception then?
I'll go. Yeah, let's use your passive. We'll use your passive deception.
17.
I'm using the inspiration because I got it from training, and so I'm using it in training.
That's smart.
Oh, that's an 18 on the dice.
So
I think that's an 18 on me.
18.
Yeah, for insight.
So for sure you recognize that Dia is holding back and is hiding maybe the full extent of what she's able to do, Merula. And the two of you continue to go back and forth training for some time. I imagine a few other people come to watch. Horsun's there probably interjecting Horsun, or are you just watching?
As people come to watch, Horsun would shoo them away, but his focus would be on he's totally observing and absorbing everything that they're doing and their strategies and insight, and he's trying to figure out how to make it better.
Roll me one more performance check.
All right. That's a wicked 9, my friend.
Charlie, Dia will gain inspiration from this fight back and forth, but you'll have to continue to train to get more specific bonuses. But it is a like back and forth fight that gathers some attention. Horsun pushes it away. It continues on, maybe a little bit too long, with both of you very, very capable. But I want to cut away now, and I want to find out what else happens with our group on the road to Altaruk. And let's go to Christina. Christina, over the next 2 days of travel, I want to create with you one moment that matters, that Akasha can hold on to, that you want to introduce about the travel. It could be about Akasha, it could be about somebody else, but it's an important event that happens.
I think I would like to spend some time with my grandfather and Ebo.
Okay.
I think the thing of importance would be just talking to them about getting together a council.
Do you think that Akasha would bring this up while they're traveling on the road in the back of their howdah, or do you think that she would wait until they're camped at night?
She would wait until the ice cream truck goes past.
Is that what that is?
Sorry, it's like, right.
Oh, that's okay. That's not bad. Yeah, there's a bard in your howdah. So maybe it's towards the end of the second day of travel, we'll say. And everybody's starting to slow down. Maybe you're not out of your howdah yet, but the other servants have left and they're starting to unpack. And your grandfather, Atlas, I think, is like sitting in the back in his seat, and he's just sort of nodded off a little bit. He's taking a little bit of a nap. And how would we find Ebo here in this moment?
Ebo would probably, while Lord Atlas is sleeping, would probably get familiar with Lord Atlas's tea set, and he'd probably make himself a cup of tea, and kind of he would swirl the tea around and look at Akasha.
I was really impressed with how you spoke to that giant fellow a couple nights back.
I tried to use diplomacy and apparently it worked.
Oh yes, it certainly did. It was good to see, and he spoke about wanting to be a leader in the future, and I see that. I see that as a great possibility.
Now, when you say leader in the future, it seems to me that you assume I am not a leader.
Oh, I apologize. I'm still getting used to the leadership positions that are part of the city of Balaking or the houses. I apologize.
Well, it's completely okay. Just enter sentences with your grace and everything will work out.
Oh, of course, Your Grace, of course. Um, so, I was, quite interested in, possibly, if you, with your permission, perhaps, helping, provide counsel or guidance, to, uh, uh, your leadership role.
You would like to be my right hand.
Oh, sure. If you'll have me, I will greatly appreciate that.
Technically, my grandfather is my right hand, so you'll have to be my left hand, but you can be my hand.
Oh, sure. Left, right. Either hands are good for me. Yeah.
You know what they say? The left hand should always know what the right hand is doing, and the face knows everything else.
Yes, I believe it goes something like that. Yes.
Pretty sure that's it.
So how may I be of service, Your Grace? How can I help assist you?
You actually did it.
Yeah, you instructed me to say so, and this is all quite new to me, so.
But that makes me a leader because I gave you something to do and you followed through on it and did the thing. And I just wanted to point out the progress.
Oh, your progress is being made, yes.
And that's all thanks to you.
There's like a start and like gasp from the back of the Haldor as Lord Atlas wakes up with a start and just like cries out randomly, the worm, the worm. Squints his eye and rubs the back of his neck and says, are we there? Yeah. Are we at Altaruk?
I'd like to run over to him and just kind of pet his head and say, was it the turtle again? Are you the turtle?
No. I was a worm this time, like a very small worm, just crawling through the. It's the same basic idea. Hello,
No one's
Ebo. Hello, Akasha.
Do you normally have dreams like this, my lord?
Yeah, frequently. Yes, I do. It's nothing to be worried about.
Noted, yes.
Are we camping for the night? What are we doing?
Well, I believe we'll stop for the night, at least for the moment. If you might excuse me, I have some things to take care of.
Of course, Ebo. I hope we'll see you for supper.
I certainly hope so. Thank you again for your tea.
He kind of smells the air and he says, you did a good job. That smells spot on.
I certainly learned fast. Have a wonderful night, Lord Atlas and Akasha, Your Grace. Have a wonderful evening.
Please, call me Akasha.
Yes, Akasha.
There's a befuddled look on Lord Atlas's face at this interaction, and he sort of stands up and leans on his chair and gives Ebo a pat on the shoulder, and he says, be careful getting down. I'll see you soon, my friend.
I'll see you quite soon.
And I'll disembark off.
Okay. So you climb down, and there's some elvish runners in the bottom to help you down. And then there's a moment with Akasha and her grandfather, still not departed from the back of this Haldor. And Lord Atlas just sort of smiles, a small smile at you. You can tell he's tired. Traveling's been hard, and he is ready for a real night's sleep in a real bed when they get to the village tomorrow. And he looks at you and he asks, "Are you ready? Once we're in Altaruk, you'll get to meet Rakesh, the representative of our house there."
I can't say that I'm exactly excited. Not a big fan of Rakesh.
Oh. Well, I suppose I can understand. He's a bold individual, but he's done good
I'm
work.
not sure we should say bold in the place of arrogant.
Well, it's true. You know how these gladiators are, especially the ones who had long careers. Once they live past their career, they have a reason to be confident. Rakesh is just very confident, I suppose.
I don't think your glory days should last forever.
Neither do I. But once we're there, well, we'll be able to leverage some of what our house has there to help us moving forward. And if you plan to make a move to provide inspiration, that might be the time.
So I should make a speech, is what you're saying.
Well, I don't
a
want you
speech,
to
and I can plead to him and say that we require resources, and I can get them to rally behind me as well. And at I could get different representatives from House Sereno, and we could make a power clique. Just everybody in one area, all supporting me and our house.
It would be a good time. You'll have to, of course, make sure you spend some time in the elven markets in Altaruk. They are a fine market, and perhaps some of those people might be able to help us as well. Altaruk, it's not like Balak. It's really run by the merchants, not by lords.
Be of the people is our lesson for this journey.
And
people don't want to be told.
Yeah. If you want to practice your speech at some point, tomorrow, perhaps while we're on the road, then I am happy to listen. I love listening to your speeches. They're always so good.
You're right, and I'm a good listener as well.
He laughs at that, but it's not it's a genuine it's just a genuine light laugh that kind of trickles out of the back of his throat, and he coughs a little bit as the silt blows through the haldor, and he catches his breath and he looks down to the camp below and he says, "Is there anything you need me to do, Akasha? I represent our house, but I'm just a figurehead here, really. I'm relying on you to make good decisions, and I'm here to support you."
I think as long as I have your support, that's all I truly need. And I know that if I speak to the representatives of our house, that you will support me regardless of how far-fetched an idea may seem.
Exactly. Completely washing over far-fetched. He's all in. He says, I'm getting a little hungry. Would you help me down, my dear?
Absolutely.
As the two of you go arm in arm climbing down this giant turtle shell to the ground where the elves are there to help you down the rest of the way, is there anything else you want to say to your grandfather before you head to camp?
I think we'll just carry on our way.
Arm in arm.
Enjoy a nice stroll.
And it is a little cooler this evening. You can feel the silt on your face, but it feels nice. You go to camp to gather with the others on the final night of your journey before you reach Altaruk, the Crossroads village. And before we finish our journey, I want to check in with Ebo. Ebo, who has departed from the Haldal, has left Halcerno. Where is it he goes, and what is it he does?
Ebo's gonna see if he can possibly wander out from the temporary encampment that this caravan is making, and he's gonna go out, not so far away that it's a trouble to get back, but enough to where he might get some privacy, and he just like slowly wanders out, in a way that makes it seem that he's not up to anything. It's just like an old guy going out for a stroll. And after he gets to a place where he feels comfortable, he's going to take a little bit of, he's going to grab his little thing of water. He's also going to grab one of the bamboo shoots he carries with him, like a living bamboo shoot. He's going to find the best place of dirt, soil, or sand that he can. And he's going to put this bamboo shoot into the earth, put a little water on it, and I don't know if you want to do some flavor here, but he's going to try and cast life transference from himself to the bamboo shoot.
Ooh, I like this.
To see if he can get it to sprout a little bit more and help it along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you a question. Does he, because all magic, even preserving magic, all arcane magic, it draws life from the land, from any living, especially plant life. It always wants plant life first. Water, it draws the energy of water and takes it away. And it can also draw life from sentient creatures, living creatures as well. So is it that he's drawing life from himself to fuel the arcane magic and passing it into this bamboo shoot?
Yes, and the spell inherently does it.
Yeah. So go ahead and roll the damage.
Okay, cool. I was just checking that I can't off myself by just rolling damage. It's not possible. Okay.
It's always a good thing to check, yeah. Turn yourself into an attack.
Yeah. Give me 1 second here, and I will do that. Okay. Do spells, and that. Can I see it? Okay, perfect. All right, rolling now. So it's going to take 19 points of my own health just inherently, and I can't regain that number of hit points. It says you may take and then technically the plant would get 38 points of life from that, and I can't reduce that number in any way. The damage I take from that.
Is that over half of your hit points?
Yes.
All right. So, Ebo, you stick this living bamboo shoot into the silt off of the road, not in the sea, but in that sort of beach between the road and the sea. And the sun has not fallen yet. There's this huge dark sun on the horizon, slowly dipping down, its rays licking up into the sky, and the orange, the red that usually fills the daytime here is beginning to give way to streaks of purple on the outside. As you plant this stalk into the ground and you touch your hands to your chest, you focus your magic, you say the arcane words, and instead of drawing life from the world around you, you draw it from yourself. And I have a second question for you before we kind of go to what happens as a result. How does it affect him when he does this? How does it physically affect him or change him?
I'd say that his skin would turn a tint of gray, and the veins on his face would probably pulse or look like he's dehydrated or has done a lot of exert himself a lot, kind of like if you're lifting something heavy above your head, the vessels in your face kind of stick out. So that's what it looks like as he does his own personal ritual off from the caravan.
It gets to the point where the veins that are popping out of your skin feel like they could burst. There's a wave of nausea that always accompanies defiling magic, especially when it's focused. Its energies are focused on drawing from a living creature. And then it passes through you, through your hands, through your will, through your spell, into the shoot, and powerfully so. This living shoot that's planted in the ground, it begins to take root. You can feel it. For a moment, you're connected to it. You can feel it dig down, climb down deep into rock, into ancient sediment and stone. And then it grows upwards, not slowly, but quickly. It shoots up into the sky, 12 feet, the size of a half giant, and it's continuing to grow. Once it gets to about 15 feet, it's slowing, but it's beginning to branch off. You can already see that it's not just one shoot, it's turning into a tree and other trees, a small beginning of a forest. And you've created this in the span of just a few seconds. And you know it will continue to grow long after your spell is cast, unless someone destroys it. And there's that swimming in your head for just a moment. I need you to roll me a Constitution saving throw.
Sure. Constitution. That's a 5.
So you gain a level of exhaustion, and this isn't just because of your spell, it's also because this is coming at the end of 3 days of long travel and the heat and your age. And there's a moment where, as these shoots and these trees grow up from the silt, you collapse to the ground and your head is still swimming. And when you steady yourself and you don't feel like your stomach's dropping out from your center anymore, you look up into the sky and you see a strange, it looks like a shooting star, but it's not red, it's not yellow, it's not the color of a normal shooting star. It's a bright, pallid green, and it's streaking across the sky from the direction of the Silt Sea over the tablelands, stretching onward and onward and onward, quickly. And Ebo, in the distance, in the horizon, you see it arc downward and disappear, not beyond the horizon, but towards the land, far in the distance. You believe that the star, or whatever it was, fell from the sky and crashed into the earth. But that's where we're going to end our session for tonight. Yay!
Sweet.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you everybody very much for hanging out with us for this session. I'm really excited for next session. We'll start off with arriving to Altaruk, and we have a lot of fun things to do there, a lot of fun things planned over the next couple of sessions. As always, thank you so much to everybody in chat who's engaging, everybody who comments on our YouTube or lets us know how they feel on social media. It means a lot to us. It really, like, I think about it all week. I love it when people get into the story as much as we do, and I feel very grateful that I have such great storytellers around me who are so engaging with their characters and their story. I'm loving it. I also want to shout out our sponsors, Dark Dice, Level Up Dice, Wormwood Gaming, all of our moderators helping to keep chat safe and fun, and literally everybody out there watching right now. You could be spending your time in a million different ways, but you're spending it here with us, and I'm very, very happy and lucky and grateful for that. So I just want to go around tonight, like normal, check in with everybody, let us know how you're feeling, if you had a favorite moment, what you're looking forward to in the future, if there's something, and where we can find you, what you're up to. And we'll start tonight with Christina.
Hello, my name is Christina Ariel. You can find me online, KRYSTINA-ARIELLE. And fun fact, Ariel is not my last name. So for the people that call me Miss Ariel, it's actually not, it's my middle name. Thanks. But you can find out what I'm doing online. I appreciate everybody that is following this journey and coming with us, and it feels really good to go on this adventure. I know I have stuff to promote, but you can look up my social media because I'm always talking about it there. But right now I don't know what I'm supposed to talk about except to say continue watching Rise of the Veiled Alliance and listening to us on podcast.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Definitely check out Christina's other shows. She does a ton of amazing work, tells lots of amazing stories, and they're all worth checking out. And like she said, check out the social media because it's all there for Christina and all of our friends here. Let's go down to Bill. Bill, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing dandy, man. How are you?
I'm good.
Cool.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I say stuff now.
Yeah.
On the internet, I'm Bill of the Forest. I had a lot of fun. Like early on, I didn't know this would come out so soon, but like discovering Horsun's passions, that was a pleasant surprise, and definitely leaned into it because like that's my jam too. I love all these people playing this game. Is so fun, and like all of the interactions. I'm excited. I'm so excited to see where everything's going, and then I promise I'll talk better later. On Wednesday evenings, I do a Witcher TRPG game on Laugh Love Lindy's channel. You can check that out, and keep your eyes peeled for all this cool stuff that's happening at the LFM. It's going to be great, and please pay attention and watch what all these other fantastic folks are doing. They're awesome in every way and the epitome of what you should strive to be as a person. And final bow, that's it.
I did appreciate the training montages today. I didn't expect them, but I loved them. I thought they were great. And it was a great way to kind of connect more characters as we slowly start to connect all the characters. Next session is the session where everybody will start to be over the next two sessions. Everybody will start to be thrown together. But I love both for the new characters and the old characters that we're just getting to we're getting more questions as we get more answers about them. And I love that. That's my favorite kind of storytelling, to constantly keep you guessing and wonder who these characters are, what their objectives are. And every time we learn a little bit more, we learn that we have a lot more to learn. So thank you very much, Bill. Definitely check out Bill, and let's go down to Sam. Hi, Sam.
I had so much fun. I've been looking forward to having more role-playing interactions with some of the new characters, and I got to actually talk really for real to like two of them. I'm gonna meet Evo soon. I'm so excited for that. It's been so fun. I have
fight buddies. It's great. I'm excited. There were a lot of fun rolls, and I think all of my favorites were the failures. That con save just brought me so much joy.
Me too.
It brought Merula no joy, but Sam was pleased.
It's the perfect thing when you succeed on the things that like you should succeed on, but the things that really like is maybe most important to the character. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sometimes the dice will really pull it out for you, not just when they give you wins, but when they are brave, when they do not act cowardly, when they give you a good fail.
I agree. I loved all the interactions with Van and with Lucius, and then the training montage. It was all amazing. Glad that we got to do all of that today. And is there anything that you're up to? Anything you want to shout out? Let our folks at home know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at Tchaikovsky, as it is right up there. And you can find pretty much everything I do as a role-playing performer and a personal streamer throughout the Twitchernet on my personal Twitch About page, which has my weekly schedule. So if you just go to twitch.tv/Delevely, Delevely, you'll find all of the groovy stuff that I'm up to.
That's a really good idea. Now I'm going to go do that.
Had to collate it somewhere.
Yeah. I'll remember that. Let's go over to Michael. Michael, first of all, for Michael and Christina, go ahead if you haven't already, mark inspiration for your downtime activities on your character sheets. And how are you doing?
Great. I'm having a good time trying to learn what Ebo is up to and capable of, interacting with Akasha, and excited to have Ebo interact with the other characters. Gonna figure out what that falling star business is up to at some point. But yeah, so I am Michael Sinclair II. I go by Michael Crits everywhere. I am doing I'm our Fateforge Academy, which is a D&D podcast that's more fantastical and not as serious, but kind of serious. That's just fun and whimsical, and I play a Celestial Warlock, and he's a cool preteen boy, and it's awesome. And I also play Magic the Gathering on my personal channel, which is also at Michael Crits. So I'm hitting Mythic very soon. I'm going to get some coaching tonight, and I'm one win away from Mythic and Magic the Gathering Arena, so I'll be doing that, and I'll be doing some streams probably soon. Just look at my Twitter. I'm up to a lot of things, and yeah, I'm excited to continue on the story and see what's in store.
I liked getting to see Ebo use his magic at the end a lot for the first time in that way. I thought that was very cool. I'm excited to explore more of what that means in the future. Is there like one thing for next session that you're really hoping will happen? For Ebo or for somebody?
No, yeah, I really want Ebo to meet Merula. I think that's going to be an exciting prospect, of like a duality of there's a good boy and there's this good old guy, but slightly mysterious. I don't know.
Merula's like a half good, half bad, half boy.
Perfect. There's balance. There's a balance. So I'm excited for that for sure. I'm looking forward to that. And at some point, I need to do a DM to the DM this week so we can work on some things I've been thinking about for lore. So we'll get to that.
I love that. Yeah, and I think everybody knows, but I love conspiring. Like, I love it. It's literally like probably my favorite part. I love conspiring with people behind the scenes. So if you ever want to conspire, my DMs are open, and I will make sure we get that. We'll make sure we get that scene with Ebo and Merula, because I think they might have some things they could talk about. Maybe I think that might be interesting.
I have no idea what you could possibly be talking about.
Well, perfect. Let's go up to Charlie. Hello, Charlie.
Hi, Don. Yes, you do like to conspire, usually against me, usually against my feelings. It's monstrous and delightful in the same breath. I really enjoyed all of my scenes today. I got to meet people, I got to talk to Akasha, and the funny thing is right when we started doing those montage scenes, I was like, Dia really needs to talk to Horsun to get some training in, because that assassin nearly got her. And then Horsun went straight to Merula, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll do that another time. And then Billy read my mind and was like, I need to go get Dia. And I was like, yes, come and get Dia. So I had a great time. I'm very enthused. Might be the energy drink and the coffee talking, but I had a great time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that getting to see Dia train with Horsun and with Merula was very cool. I also enjoyed the lantern scene. I really liked the conversation with Dia and Akasha. I thought that was fascinating. I thought that was really good development for both characters. Really good role play, all around great role play all night. But I enjoyed that scene a lot, and I'm excited to see, because I feel like I know more. I know what you sent me about Dia and the backstory, just like with all the characters, but I feel like every time you play Dia, I'm learning something that I didn't know, which is cool for me as a DM. I'm here for it. Is there anything you want to shout out? Let us know where you are, what you're up to, anything like that.
All of that stuff, that important stuff. I'm the Twitch director over Encounter Roleplay. We have games on Monday to Friday. They change as we change seasons, but there is always something going on. So if you want to be involved, come and check us out over there. But if you're not over there, be here, because there is some killer content going on between our campaign, our sibling campaign, and the Call of Cthulhu game, which is everything. I am so about it. I am into that very much. So yeah, that is all of that exciting stuff. And I really loved that I got to finally roleplay with Christina. It's been on the list, and now I can like tick that shit off. Got it. And now I gotta keep it. I gotta keep this privilege of scenes with Christina. So I'm hyped.
Yeah. As for me, I'm Donathan Fry. I'm the creative director here at LFM Network. Please check out all of our other shows, which Charlie mentioned. You have our sister campaign, Tales from the Silt Expanse, in the same world with characters. There might be crossover at points, but it's got a totally different feel, and it's out on the Silt Sea. That's Sundays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Check out Degrees of Madness, our Tuesday show, which is our Call of Cthulhu campaign with guests. It's got puppets from Perception Studio, great comedians. It's comedy horror set in the 1980s. It's amazing. Check that out for sure. And we have some other stuff planned too. Can't talk about it right now, but in the meantime, follow us online, follow our Twitter, at Veiled Alliance, at Degrees_Madness, at LFM_Network, and learn about all the stuff we're doing, because we're really, really trying to create some fun stories and content for y'all. That's it for me. Thank you all very much. Have a great night and take care of yourselves, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye, friends.